because of me or anything like that, but because of how amazing you guys are. Sharing the content, liking, commenting, the whole 9 yards. You guys have been phenomenal. You guys can find the recorded version on YouTube. You just type in Nolan Hawkeye Anthony and you'll see it there. Again, the NHA podcast is doing phenomenal. You can go to 247hawkeye.com, find it there, as well as finding the YouTube video there. Let me see. Anything else? Twitter and Parler at 247hawkeye, even though I'll say I'm not on there as much. Not on there as much. Facebook is probably the best place to find me, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony. And then obviously Instagram, again, not on that as much, but all of it will be in the description. All right, guys, there hasn't been a lot of stuff this week. And the original video I did was a long, drawn-out version of what I'm going to do now. In other words, I did a Big Ten West preview where I was looking into the Big Ten West, but the reality is it looked much better on video or on camera than it did listening to the podcast. Because listening to the podcast, the NHA podcast, of course, you cannot see as much, or you cannot see what I'm describing. And on top of that, I don't have somebody who can, like Jamie on the Joe Rogan podcast, who can just, on my whim, I say, hey, Jamie, look it up. I can't do that. So it takes time. But I am still going to dive into the West, and more in particular, I'm going to be just giving my thoughts on Iowa, okay? Because that's more important in my opinion. Now, again, this is going to be about Iowa, and I'm going to say this right off the bat. The Division I water polo kid talking about football and basketball, I don't usually get this wrong that much because, well, I'll say this. I don't usually get Iowa wrong. I'm usually spot on Iowa or close to being spot on. I try and be as unbiased as possible. And I'll let you in on what I do. It's simple. I look at Iowa's roster. I don't look at their schedule. I look at their roster. I don't look at anybody's schedule. I look at the roster and the coaching staff, because another secret, another tidbit, coaching matters. Coaching matters big time in college sports. And yes, of course, talent matters. That's why I look at the roster. Talent matters, especially in hoops. But unlike professional sports, where you can have a roster that is crazy talented and have a coach that pretty much just doesn't get in the way, and you have a damn good team. Occasionally it doesn't work out like that, but also occasionally it works out the opposite, where a coach is too good and unfortunately gets in the way of the talent. Now that doesn't happen as much, but coaching matters in college sports. Again, you can have a team like Duke where the talent is just so good, where you could pretty much put any coach out there, or Miami Hurricanes back in the day, and have a 8-9 win season. But I'll give you a perfect example on how much coaching matters. Iowa football. I mean, heck, their recruiting rankings, this is the first time they've had a top 25 class in 10 years, I believe. I think the last top 25 class Iowa had was maybe in 2009. Maybe. I'm not even 100% sure on that. Wisconsin football, same thing, even though they've been recruiting pretty good the last couple of years. They've been Wisconsin football has been cashing in on their wins. So those are the two things I look at. I don't look at the schedule, because the problem with looking at the schedule is you can rely, and I call that the hashtag schedule guy. You can get too big a tunnel vision on that. And the reality is a schedule more often than not does not equal what we see on the field. Whereas what we see on the field more so does have to do with talent and coaching. So I don't look at the schedule for any teams, really. So those are my two things, okay? Right off the bat, and by the way, I'm going to talk about Iowa baseball here because I do think that the interest in Iowa baseball is going up. And I do think fans are starting to care more about it. And, quite frankly, I think Iowa needs to cash in on this upgrade in baseball production and, up the ante on their field, the stands and things like that, so they can get more high caliber individuals to the University of Iowa in recruiting. So we are going to discuss Iowa baseball. Okay. The reality is, looking at the Big Ten West, I do like, and this is going to be, I'm doing this because I want you guys to have a baseline from this point on for everything else I do. Okay. Everything else I talk about, I want you guys to be able to refer to this. Okay. I do like what Illinois did. I am shocked that Illinois did not win more with Lovie Smith, because as a Bears fan, Lovie Smith did a good job. Now, there are times where the talent or the coaching outside of the head coaching job in football can overshadow the actual head coach's production and how good they do in their win-loss. In my eyes, folks, and I'm going to pull up the visual on the video portion. In my eyes, Illinois made a good hire. And again, I am a little surprised that Lovie Smith did not do better. Now, I said this many times, that even though Illinois was able to recruit fairly well, they never recruited well enough in the state of Illinois. And recruiting well in your state is always the bread and butter of how your program is going to do. You need to recruit well in your state. You need to. It's a must. And for me, that doesn't mean always landing the top talent in your state. That means, to me, that means building inroads in your state and developing the talent in your state once they get to your school. Because if you look at Iowa hasn't always landed the top guys in the state, but more often than not, the kids that come out of the state of Iowa that are 2- and 3-star guys, Josie Jewell, Vandenberg's not from Iowa. Josie Jewell, well, he just comes to mind right off the bat. But, and I, for whatever reason, nobody else does right now. But Iowa gets 2- 3-star guys from in-state. Jack Campbell is a 3-star guy on the current roster. And they developed that. I mean, hell, Tristan Wirfs wasn't even a consensus 4-star guy. He wasn't. But you look at Anthony Nelson, 3-star guy. Matt Nelson, 3-star guy. High 3-star guy, but 3-star guy nonetheless. Iowa develops them into NFL level talent. If I was an in-state Iowa guy, I would go to Iowa, no questions asked, just because of how solid their track record is at developing NFL guys. If you really think about it, when Iowa, and this is, by the way, guys, this is going to be one long rant on Iowa pretty much. But if you look at Iowa, if you start for the Hawkeyes, you can pretty much pencil your name into being on an NFL roster, whether that's being drafted or just having a shot at being on an NFL roster. That's pretty good. So I just named some guys, and I'm sure, I missed, obviously some in-state talent, but that's what you need to do. You need to develop inroads, and you need to develop the talent that gets to your school, regardless of if it's 4-star guys. You just need to develop those guys that are from your state into starting level production, and get the high level name on there, a well-known guy that just does well when they get to your school. And apparently Lovie Smith did not do that, but he did recruit well outside the state. Now, Bret Bielema, I like the hire for Illinois. I do. In other words, when Illinois hired Bret Bielema, my instant reaction was, okay, Illinois, got a good coach, and he's from the state of Illinois. It would not shock me. Matter of fact, and I'll give my rankings of the Big Ten that I did in the previous video that I didn't put out. I have Iowa 1, Wisconsin 2, Northwestern 3, Illinois 4, and then Nebraska and Purdue. You can flip-flop in my eyes. I'm a little bit higher on Purdue than I am Nebraska for whatever reason. But when Bret Bielema was announced as the Illinois coach, I was like, okay, that is something to look out for. Whereas when Michigan State hired their guy, I was like, not a good hire, because I'm a Colorado Buffalo fan, born in Colorado Springs, and I knew that if you cannot win at Colorado, you're going to have a darndest time winning at Michigan State as well. It's crazy. Michigan State, if you really think about it, the success that they were able to have with Nick Saban and, the next coach, they haven't really capitalized on that. Michigan State was good for, solid for a good 20 years, and they haven't been able to capitalize on that after that. With Iowa, if Kirk Ferentz were to leave tomorrow, I would fully expect Iowa to continue having a solid program. That would be fully expected in my eyes. Anywho, Illinois got a good coach, and I'll say that right now to Iowa fans, folks. And Illinois is a team to look out for in the Big Ten West. I fully believe that. Bret Bielema, his record is 97-58. He has 3 Big Ten championships, which is big time. I believe that's the same as Kirk Ferentz. And then he has a Coach of the Year award. At Wisconsin, here are some of his win totals. And yes, he took over a good program, but it's not as though Wisconsin is Michigan or Ohio State. So or USC. So let's not make that mistake. Okay. Wisconsin is not a hotbed for recruiting, but at least Wisconsin doesn't have to deal like Iowa or Oklahoma with Oklahoma State and Iowa State, or in Kansas State and Kansas, where they barely have a big enough population for one school. Anyways, Bret Bielema has gone 12-1, 9-4, 7-6, and 10-3. And then, and he went 11-2, 11-3, and 8-5. That's pretty big time. It's, in my eyes, that's big time. And then on Arkansas, he went 3-9, 7-6, 8-5, 7-6. So to put this in perspective, and I'm going to compare Illinois to what Nebraska is doing, which is terrible. And, I've read some stuff on Nebraska where one of the hot takes was that regardless of how Nebraska does this upcoming season, Scott Frost will be back because of how much his buyout is. And whether that's true or not, my take is that that's incorrect, because I think schools nowadays, Clay Travis, when he used to say this, I used to wholeheartedly, not used to, I still wholeheartedly agree with it. He used to say that the dump truck method was what schools needed to do. Meaning, if there is a top coach on the circuit, you need to just dump a ton of money for him. Or if you already have a top coach, again, you need to dump a lot of money into him. And schools have started doing that, AKA Matt Campbell in Iowa State, which, by the way, a side note opinion for Iowa State, I don't really understand why they're top 10. I mean, I get it because of the previous season they just had, but in my eyes, they don't have a ton of talent. They really don't. They don't have, and that does not always equal wins in college football. I get that, AKA the 2015 Iowa Hawkeyes. But a top 10? It would not shock me in the least if Iowa State reverted back to an 8-7 win team this upcoming season. Yes, their running back is solid. Yes, their quarterback looks to be pretty good. But I'm not as high on Iowa State as everyone else is. Anyways, back to Illinois and Nebraska. Okay. Nebraska, well, Scott Frost, well, AKA Nebraska. And this is why I said when Scott Frost got hired, I was not as big on it as everybody else was. He had one losing season at UCF, 6-7, and one winning season, 13-0. Okay, and I get it. The 13-0 season was fantastic, but that would not be enough, in the least, in my eyes, to give him a free reign coaching position at Nebraska. And he has not disappointed for when it comes to my takes on him. He has gone 4-8, 5-7, 3-5. Let's compare that to Brett Bielema, so that Iowa fans who talk smack to Nebraska, and Illinois for that matter, can understand what I'm saying. And, if this happens to come across Nebraska fans as well, at Arkansas in the SEC. Okay, Arkansas is a good program, but it ain't Nebraska. The state of Arkansas may have more talent in state, and I'm not even sure how true that is. I think it's pretty similar to the state of Nebraska. But Arkansas is not as important to the SEC as Nebraska is in name recognition to the Big Ten. 3-9, okay, 7-6, 8-5, 7-6. So one losing season followed by 3 winning seasons. That is a big difference in my eyes. And for whatever reason, so number one, I'm making a point on how solid of a hire I think Brett Bielema is for Illinois. Listen, folks, I'm not saying that Illinois is going to become top tier Big Ten. I'm not saying that. But the state of Illinois, when it comes to recruiting, is probably, you have Illinois, Michigan, Ohio. Those are the top 3 states that you recruit in the Big Ten. Okay. Not to mention you have Missouri right down the road from you. Not to mention that. So I'm making a point on how solid the state, or how solid of a hire I believe Illinois is. Or no, that's how solid of a hire Illinois is. How solid of a hire Brett Bielema is for Illinois, and the mistake I believe that Nebraska is making. And I do believe that if Scott Frost does not have a 7 or 8 win season at Nebraska, he will be gone. I think 7 wins will just be enough. Will just be enough. Okay. Now, let's take this to Iowa. Okay. Yes, I believe that Brett Bielema is a good hire. But do I think, is that enough for me to look at the schedule and for Iowa and say, dang? No, it's not. Folks, and that wasn't such a great transition. I know that. But, oh, by the way, I know I didn't say this. My partner is out with, a tough throat, and you need a good voice to do podcasting. So Dean, get better. You guys can find him on Facebook, Dean Freen. Folks, this is as solid of an all-around team that Iowa has had in years. Okay? Plain and simple. The wide receiver group, which used to be average at best, is now, in my eyes, a top 3 wide receiver group in the Big Ten West, if not top 2. I look at the Big Ten West in the wide receiver group, and I look at, okay, Purdue, maybe, I don't know if they're super good top to bottom, but they do have David Bell, and usually having one top guy at wide receiver is enough. That's all you need is just one solid guy. Okay. Wisconsin is usually just slightly above average at wide receiver, not elite, but slightly above average. Okay. Nebraska always has talent there, but will they be able to utilize it? We'll see. Nebraska, the past 4 or 5 years, has always looked better on paper at the position than they have in actual production. And then Northwestern, not so good. I didn't know this, but apparently Northwestern lost all kinds of talent. I was not aware of that. By the way, this is what I was looking for. I was looking for, when I was going to do the Big Ten West preview, I was looking for, a thing that shows who's coming back and who's leaving. Okay. They don't even have the Iowa State who's gone, because they had the running back who's gone. They don't even have that correct. I just think there's a lot of misconceptions on Iowa State, quite frankly, and, who's leaving and who's coming back. They have Iowa at 12th, and I agree with it completely. Iowa is a top 15, folks. Iowa fans, Iowa is a top 15 team. And I know some of y'all are afraid to say that, and some of y'all are hashtag quarterback guys, and you're saying, well, we ain't going to be that good unless Spencer Petras is that good. Not true. In reality, the running game, if you look at Iowa win totals, you can almost always direct it towards the running game and their success, and that is how a season pans out. Not always, but most of the time. And they actually, I was going to look if they had Matt Hankins, but no, they do not. They do not have Matt Hankins. And by the way, I think this is going to be a part 1 and a part 2, quite frankly. But they have key additions for Iowa: Xavier Williams, Matt Lorbeck. That's not correct. Dante Craig, Keegan Johnson, Justice Sullivan. Alaire Jackson is gone. Davion Nixon gone. Chauncey Golston gone. Jack Heflin gone. Amir Smith-Marset gone. Brandon Smith, Nick Niemann gone. And Cole Bammer and Keith Duncan. But if you look at Iowa, folks, the wide receiver group is solid. I love Tyrone Tracy's game. I really, really do. Matter of fact, you guys know this. When Brandon Smith got injured, I was always saying, it would not shock me well, number one, I said that the passing game was not going to go down. And number two, once that proved to be true, I was saying that it wouldn't shock me if Tyrone Tracy held on to the starting position. Now, they gave Brandon Smith a chance when he got back, and he didn't disappoint. He did good in the USC game. And he's always been a solid wide receiver. But I am super high on Tyrone Tracy. Super high. The Iowa's wide receiver room has not been this solid since Marvin McNutt and I believe it's Correll Johnson Koulianos. I believe that's his name. So you look at that, and you, as an Iowa fan, you got to be stoked. And the whole point of this, folks, Iowa is the top team in the Big Ten West. And I know a lot of fans don't want to say that. They think that it jinxes it. You know, when Iowa has been a top team before, they haven't always capitalized on it. And there's some truth to that. You know, 2016, they should have been better than they were. They weren't as good as they should have been. 2010, same thing. However, in the 2000s, they were good back to back to back. So, you know, I don't know how much truth is to that. The defensive line, yes, they lose guys, but they have young talent all over the place. And the defensive line is silently becoming one of the top position groups for the Hawkeyes. Just churning out talent. And I love that. Love it. The biggest, in my eyes, the biggest issue, more so, is the offensive line. That's the only position that I'm looking at, and I'm like, we'll see. But in my eyes, all it needs to be is average or slightly above average. That's it. Because the running back talent is good enough to compensate for that. More than good enough. You look at every other position group. Defensive line has some question marks, but I'm not really concerned about that. Linebacking group, solid. How stoked are you on Jack Campbell? I know I'm stoked. Seth Benson reminds me of a Josie Jewell through and through, baby. And then, you know, you have former four-star Justin Jacobs as your third option. Then you have the defensive back group, and you're going to have 3-year starter Dane Belton at the cash position. 3-year starters or somewhat starters in Matt Hankins. Well, Matt Hankins has definitely been a 3-year starter. And my guy, Riley Moss, my boy, Riley Moss. And then you have Jack Kerner, 3-year starter pretty much. Kayvon Merriweather, 2-year starter. Woo! Golly, super talented. All right, we're coming down the clock on part 1. I wasn't sure if I was going to finish all of it. By the way, go to 247hawkeye.com. Follow my YouTube videos, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony. We're going to be doing part 2, so you guys can listen to part 2. But you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. Remember, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts or feelings, feelings just don't matter. Yep. Okay, we are back. We're back. Part 2, May 12th, the NHA podcast, baby. Part 2. Of course, go to 247hawkeye.com. You're listening to the NHA podcast. This podcast has just been growing like crazy. I am so grateful for it. I really am. And some of it has to do with consistency. You know, we made the change of releasing the videos every Wednesday, and we haven't been perfect on it. Sometimes it's been a day late, sometimes it's been 2 days late, but for the most part, we've done every Wednesday, and I am stoked on that. I really am. I'm stoked on it. The best place to find me is Facebook, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony, but you can also find me Twitter and Parler at 247 Hawkeye and Instagram at official247hawkeye.com page. On the video, on the YouTube, I'm going to have some Tyrone Tracy highlights playing. Just because he is, and you know, I do want to play this clip. I do want to play this clip from Kelton Copeland, and I'm not sure. The Iowa coaching staff, I've said this many times, but the Iowa coaching staff truly from top to bottom is solid. And the new hires that they have made, you can make an argument that they're upgrades in a lot of ways. They're upgrades. Because, you know, George Barnett is a young guy who has been doing solid in the offensive line, and he has a chance to come to Iowa and grow. I feel confident about that. We'll see if he can recruit at the level that Tim Polasek was doing. Because quite frankly, Tim Polasek, and I'm going to be playing a clip that Kelton Copeland had, quite frankly, Tim Polasek was recruiting at a very high level, and not just the offensive line. You know, his region, he was doing very, very well. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. I'm not sure that Kelton Copeland is on this. Yeah, this is what sucks about not having somebody to do all of your clicking and video stuff. Yeah, there's a good Scott Frost. Scott Frost is 31-27, and he is 12-20 at Nebraska. Folks, Nebraska was not that bad. It was not. If you think it was, you're out of your mind. Out of your mind. Let's see if I can pull it up on 247 Sports. Okay. Tim Polasek reeled in Justin Britt, Michael Myslinski, who had offers from everywhere. You know, he committed to Texas, and Iowa still reeled him in. Jake Karchinski, who transferred, in my opinion, a huge mistake. Michael Loy was a high-level recruit initially, and then he got injured. I'm not even sure what. Let's see what happened to Michael Loy. Let's see if low-key he's trying to come back. That would be such a cool story if he did come back. Yeah, I don't really see anything on it. You know, it is kind of surprising that no reporters have asked about him. Yeah, I don't really see. He's had 3. So I don't really see anything on it. Okay, I don't see anything on Michael Loy. Anyways, it would be cool if he came back. All right, it would. Now, it's been a team effort recruiting the offensive line. Okay, I will say that. And maybe Tim Polasek hasn't gotten every single guy, but you know, in my opinion, he did a great job. So now I'm not seeing every guy that he landed. I'm not. So maybe I'm incorrect, but at the same time, on 247 Sports, who the guy recruits or who the player is being recruited by isn't always shown. So, you know, but anyways, Iowa's coaching staff right now is phenomenal. I'm not sure that it gets much better than this. And out of all the people, Kelton Copeland had the toughest job and is doing from where he was starting at and where they are now is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And going back in the first video or in part 1 podcast, what I was talking about was just going at all levels for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And the last place we were at was the secondary. Folks, there is tons of starting experience in the secondary. Tons. Realistically, Matt Hankins has started for 2+ years. Riley Moss has this, at the very least, you could say 3, but at the very least, this upcoming year will be his second year of starting experience. Dane Belton has started for 2 seasons before this one. Kayvon Merriweather started all last year. Jack Carner started for 2 seasons before this one. You have last year and you have the year that Iowa beat USC, that 10-win season. Woo! I'm actually shocked that there is not more hype surrounding this Iowa team, to be honest. And again, some Iowa fans are nervous. It's the morning, but I still love candy. Are nervous to say what I'm saying, but it's the facts. And then you couple that with Xavier Williams transferring in. What? Iowa legitimately, I don't know if Dane Belton is an NFL guy. I think he's only a junior, so I don't know for sure. But at the very least, I think Iowa has 2 guys in the secondary who are NFL caliber this season for sure. I've said this a bunch of times. I don't know much about the safety position. Okay, I don't. But at the corner position, you look at it and you just say, okay, can they cover? Okay, they can. They're NFL ready. They're athletic. Okay, they're NFL ready. It's not that hard. And Matt Hankins and Riley Moss both can. But I think at the very least, Iowa has 2 guys that are NFL caliber out of all of their DBs in this upcoming season. Then you go to the offensive side of the ball. You have Tyrone Tracy and Nico Reganey, who this will be their 3rd year of starting experience. Again, their freshman season, and yeah, both of their freshman seasons, they got plenty of reps. Maybe they weren't starters or, starters completely. I don't know what you call guys that play close to the snaps of starters, but aren't the guys who are on the field when the game starts. It's kind of like a guy in basketball who plays starter minutes, but doesn't technically start. To me, that's starting experience, okay? Or at the very least, that's playing experience. And so the wide receivers that Iowa have 2 years of playing experience. Charlie Jones, and it's not as though Iowa's wide receiver group is just guys that are known. They have guys that are unknown, that are exciting, that we want to see. Charlie Jones, Desmond Hudson. I really want to see Desmond Hudson. Keegan Johnson, Arland Bruce. And I think there's other guys outside of that as well. I really do. I really, really do. For instance, Isaiah Wagner. out of Southeast Polk. And then at the running back position, you have a first team all Big Ten running back in Tyler Goodson. And then behind him, you have a guy in Ivory Kelly Martin that people have been excited about for a long time, but just can't stay healthy, which he won't get drafted because he's been injured too much. But I do think athletically, if he can stay healthy, he has a shot. And if you're a team that's drafting and, you know, let's just say down the road, hypothetically, Ivory Kelly Martin has a phenomenal pro day, which would not shock me. You know, you could say, well, he's been injured, but he hasn't taken a lot of hits either. So anyways, and then you have guys like Gavin Williams and LaShawn Williams that you're just excited about. And I'm excited about Devin Hilson, the kid out of Des Moines. I think had Des Moines let their kids play football, he would have had more offers other than Iowa. I think he was a nice get. You know, Iowa decided, they said, okay, you know, oh, shoot, I was going to play that thing. I was going to play Kelton Copeland. There's two quotes that I've heard with the running back position that I always go back to. Number one, it's Tyler Goodson's dad saying, no matter how good a kid is coming out of high school, there's no way to know for certain that he will be good in college. And he's 100% right. As a former Division I player myself, he is 100% right. Okay. Because the college level is just so much different. The competitive level is on a different level. It's just on a way different terrain. And then on top of all that, the talent is just so much closer. And the difference between a guy that is a starter and is not is much smaller than you actually think. I mean, it can literally be the difference in one kid having his stuff together and one kid not off the field. I mean, I'm serious. Anyways, I love that quote. Liddell Betts said in his first interview, I believe it was, he said that basically that you can find a lot of kids that can run the ball. And he's right. You can. But the biggest thing, sorry guys, I had a strong workout this morning. My back is hurting. But the biggest thing is finding a kid who is willing to work hard, who is big into culture, it basically has all the off-field stuff that you're looking for. And I agree. And in other words, and then I love, you know, what Kelton Copeland is saying about Tyrone Tracy, and I'm going to play that here in a second. But, you know, that's why they took Devin Hilson. You know, he's an Iowa fan. He looks to be a good kid off the field. And they would rather take an in-state Iowa kid that they know more about, that they feel more comfortable with, than take a kid that they don't know as much about, that might be a tad bit just slightly above Hilson as far as how they feel about him on the field. But they won't take him because they don't know as much about him and they want to take a culture guy. That happens all the time, guys. Anybody who has kids that are listening to this and have future thoughts about their kid playing college sports, whether it's Division I, Division II, Division III, junior college, I'll tell you this right now, that talent matters. It does. Talent matters. But the off the field stuff matters just as much. And when I heard that, I remember hearing that at a basketball camp. It was called the Adidas Junior Phenom Camp for the top middle school kids in the country. You know, I played against, let me see some of the kids. Aaron Gordon. I played against Aaron Gordon at that camp. the guy Michael Kidd Gilchrist was there. Those are just two guys that were at the camp. Soft brag, I was ranked the 36th player in the country, but of course, not all the top basketball players were there. Most of them were, there's no doubt, but not all of them. And then obviously when you get older, you know, kids' growth changes, athleticism changes. Anyways, so I did not remain a top 50 player in the country. I was still dang good, but not top 50. Anyways, if you have a kid that you have a hope for them playing in college, off the field matters. And I'll give you, it really does. It matters just as much. And I'll give you an example. Michael Myslinski, okay, the center that Iowa landed. The evaluation on him from recruiting sites is not that high. It's not. And maybe deservedly so. Maybe he's not that good. Or maybe he's good, but he doesn't jump off the page. However, you look at his offer sheet and you go, okay, what's the difference here? And the difference is that off the field, he has all the stuff. Another example, Eli Raritan, who Iowa did not get. Off the field, he has a 3-point whatever GPA, good kid, plays basketball. You can see his basketball highlights. His football stuff, just the football stuff, is not phenomenal, but it's still good. And he has offers from almost everywhere. Because here's the deal. Coaches believe that as long as you have close enough talent, if you check all the other boxes, they can get you to where they want to get you. And that's true. They may not get you to be an all Big Ten level individual, but they can get you to be a dang talented individual. So anyways, that's some advice. And it's free. Oh, by the way, if you want to support the website and the show, I do have PayPal for the website on 247hawkeye.com, and you can go there and support the show, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Here's Kelton Copeland, and this is just me going, crazy deep into Iowa's wide receiver room and just, showing you guys how talented Iowa really is this year. Here we go. I don't know what's going on here. Where is his? I can't hear his audio. What is going on?
You just saw certain things out of Tyrone Tracy that were magnetic. This young man has a magnetic ability. Anytime he has a ball in his hands, or he's around the ball, or he's on the field, he has the ability to make plays. And
he's absolutely right, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. You look at Tyrone Tracy play, and every time he gets the ball, he has a chance at making an even bigger play. So yeah, I just wanted you guys to hear that. Anyways, anywho, the only position, and some of you guys are worried about the quarterback position. I'm not. All Spencer Petras needs to do, or any quarterback that starts, but it's Spencer. Trust me, I'm telling you guys, when I watch the film, and yes, I do know Spencer Petras personally, and so I'm biased, but when I watch it, I see a guy who just makes the passes so effortlessly, so easy. And to me, it's there. Okay. His talent is there. But really, all he needs to do is just let the plays come to him. He has the playmakers. Just let it come to him. Don't make mistakes. Just let it come to you. You have a running game behind you that can make a lot of plays. So I'm not worried about the quarter. And you know, let's say Petrus sucks and you got to put Padilla in or Hogan, whatever, fine. You still have a dang good running game and a dang good defense. So you're going to be in every game. Iowa fans, stop panicking about the quarterback group. Stop panicking. So, folks, I'm hyped up on Iowa. They are a top 15 team. They are the top team in the Big Ten West. I'm telling you that right now. In my eyes, it's Iowa, Wisconsin, and I'll say this. Northwestern lost a lot of players. Matter of fact, I'm going to see if I can pull it up. Northwestern lost a lot of talent, but I do feel confident about them being able to just win football games. You know, I don't know. If I'm looking at what I said, which is talent and coaching, I feel good about Northwestern. I feel a little bit better about Wisconsin. That's why they're number 2 on my list, but I do feel good about Northwestern. So it's not like Northwestern is much further down. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have Minnesota. Okay. My bad, folks. Minnesota is 4th, okay? They're close to Northwestern in my eyes. They are. They're close. But they are 4th, nonetheless. It would be Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, and then Minnesota. But it's still, it's not as though the difference is miles, okay? It's not. It's close. Here's an article. Should fans be optimistic or pessimistic about Northwestern football? Let's see here. Coaches moving on. We already know defense coordinator will be calling it. Oh, okay. So they lose their defensive coordinator. Okay. I did not know that. That's a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. And Northwestern fans, I do think it's possible eventually you're going to lose Pat Fitzgerald. I do think that. I don't think he would be a good coach in the NFL, but I do think it's possible you lose him. Okay, graduate transfer Peyton Ramsey is gone. Let's see who else they lose. It's so hard when you don't have, you know, right in front of you and you have to read through all the stuff. Anyways, they lose Greg Newsome, J.R. Pace, Patty Fisher, Ernest Brown, and then they lose the offensive tackle, I believe. Who is... Let's just look at who Northwestern had in the NFL. Anyways, I can see an argument from you guys who say, why would you have Northwestern 3rd? Obviously, Minnesota has more talent coming back. And I understand that argument. You know, but Minnesota does lose Rashad Bateman. That's a big loss. Football draft picks. Yeah, Rashawn Slater, Greg Newsome, and Ernest Brown. Those are 3 guys that are gone. And it's not as though Northwestern is recruiting at the same level as Iowa. So, but it's still Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, and Minnesota. Okay, that's how, but again, I would not be shocked if Minnesota was the 2nd best team or the 3rd. Would not surprise me. But in my eyes, it's those 4 teams in the Big Ten West. And then it's everybody else. I would have Illinois, Nebraska, and then, or excuse me, Illinois, yeah, Nebraska, and then Purdue. I said I feel better about Purdue, but, you know, that's probably how I'd put it. Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, Illinois, Northwest or Nebraska, and then Purdue. That's how I see it. Iowa fans, you should be stoked on how solid Iowa football is coming back. I'm telling you that right now. You should be stoked. I am. And, you know, that's pretty much it. Real quick, Iowa baseball is doing great. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournament. I'm going to see if I can find Rick Heller on Google and see how many times Iowa has made the tournament. He's 221 and 143. Let's see here. He has made the NCAA tournament twice, and they would have made it last year, I believe, had the season not been canceled. So there you go. This is possibly the third time Iowa baseball is going to make the NCAA tournament after Iowa had gone 10, 20 years without making it once. Anyways, so Iowa baseball is rolling. They are balling, and I'm excited on that. I think we're going to end it here, guys. Not a ton of news this week, but I wanted to give you guys this. There's a part 1 and a part 2. Should be stoked on Iowa Hawkeye football and what they have coming back. That's how I see the Big Ten West going. Next week, I'll probably give my Big Ten East predictions, but I'm telling you, you should feel good with what I'm saying here. I feel good about it. Iowa, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Minnesota, you know, Nebraska, Purdue, flip-flop, whatever, okay? So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to share this, like it, comment, the whole 9 yards. Sharing is the biggest thing. I appreciate it so much. I love you guys. The show has been growing because of you, not because of me, because of you. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for listening. You guys can find me on YouTube, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony, the website, 247hawkeye.com. And then Facebook, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony, Twitter Parler at 247 Hawkeye. If you guys want to donate, there's a spot on PayPal. If you want to support the show, PayPal, you guys can do it through there. It would mean a lot to us. I mean, literally supporting us is on PayPal is the difference between a lot, because I live in California. You know, somebody donating $100, and even though that's a lot, it is. But doing that, you know, helps out with the trip down to Iowa City for one of the games and getting content that you guys would enjoy. I promise you. So anyways, all right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to, again, share the show. I love y'all so much. DBAP, don't be a pussy willow. And facts or feelings don't matter. Go Hawks.